Good Monday morning to you. How you doing today? Well, I was looking at the comments on the video on that little 3-inch $5 reel-to-reel machine I picked up, and the comments for cleaning the battery contacts. Everybody said vinegar. I had wine vinegar, but I only had a little bit. So I let that soak overnight, and this morning I just got back from Walmart, and I picked up some white vinegar, because I guess that's what you use, I don't know, and some baking soda. So what I did here is I poured in, I dumped out the wine vinegar. This was soaking all night. I dumped out the wine vinegar, and I put in, let's say, about a quarter of a box of this. I mean, there's no formula, I guess, for this or whatever. I put it in here. Then I filled this about half full, but it foamed up, which some of my viewers said it will. Okay, and I stirred it around my finger, and when it settled down, I added more. Then I put these things in. They are coming out a lot better. But you can see there's a lot of baking soda on the bottom. I really don't know how you're supposed to do this. This is the first time I've ever done this, so, you know. And what the heck do you neutralize it with, you know? I would imagine you just rinse this off good with water, and then dry it good, and then maybe spray. Somebody suggested spray a little deoxit on there. That's probably what I'll do. I don't have a toothbrush. I'm not going to use my own, what little teeth I got. I don't want to go using that to clean this. But I do have a small wire brush. One of those little, probably got maybe about an inch of bristle on it, you know, long. You've probably seen them. They come in a 3-pack at the dollar store or a Dollar General. And you get a brass bristle, you get a steel bristle, and you get a, I guess I don't know what you call it, like a paintbrush type of bristle. Anyways, so I really don't know what you're supposed to do, but I'm going to let this sit today. I just want to let you know that I am listening to your suggestions out there. The only thing is, I just don't know, you know, the actual procedure for doing this. And I guess what they do, I guess you have to agitate this to get this stuff, you know, to get this, you know, mixed in, because it seems to want to settle to the bottom. It's not a real strong vinegar. It's not as strong as the wine vinegar that we had at the house, but I didn't want to use up my wife's vinegar, you know, because she needs that for cooking. But so I went out to Walmart and got this. I couldn't get a small bottle, believe it or not. That's all they had of this type, because it seems like most of the viewers are telling me to use white vinegar, so that's what I did. But because this is the Great Value Walmart brand, maybe it's not as strong as it should be. Really, I don't know. I do know that if you buy this at the dollar store, it's diluted, just like their bleach is diluted. So you're really not accomplishing anything by buying it cheap. But this is what I used, so I'm letting it set. I'll probably let that set all day. And let's see. It's looking better, but I'm not too worried about the paper inside. Let me take that out, see if I can stir that up a little bit. I don't know if you're supposed to add more. It don't seem to be, you know, when you first pour the vinegar on top of the baking soda, it really foams up. But it don't stay that way too long. So I'll just mix that, and then resubmerge these again. Okay. So I would imagine, not knowing that much about this stuff, I guess the way you neutralize anything is with good old oil, like WD-40. And that's probably what I'll do, and if anybody has any other ideas, please chime in. But I have no idea. One of my viewers said, well, it depends on what kind of batteries leaked in here. Well, there was no batteries in here when I got the tape recorder. The batteries were not in here, so I have no idea whether they were alkaline or carbon zinc. I really don't know. So they say, you know, it depends on what kind of material you can use to neutralize it with. So I think the best thing for me to do would be, after this sets, and I'll probably let that set all day and maybe even overnight, I will check my comments on this particular video I'm making now and find out. Maybe somebody's got some other ideas, in which case I'll come out here and make changes. But if not, what my plan is to let this soak all day, all night, dump it tomorrow, rinse it out good with water, dry it real good, and spray it with WD-40. That will neutralize the vinegar. I was also told that the vinegar could eat the metal. Well, what are you going to do? This vinegar is not all that strong. Very faint smell of vinegar. When I dumped the wine vinegar, that was real strong, but this stuff here don't seem to be all that strong. Well, we'll see, but I wanted to make this short video to update you on what I'm doing here. I played around a little more with the tape recorder, and I turned both the reels over, and it appears to be a half-track recorder because the recording was not going backwards. If that was a full-track recorder and you turned the tape over, the audio would be going backwards because it records on the full width of the tape. It apparently is a half-track recorder, which is perfect because I can play some of my old stuff. Now, I've had a comment where, why do you want to buy batteries for it and put it in there, you know? It's not something I am going to use. Obviously, it's old technology. I would like to restore it to some extent, you know, just to get it to work like it originally was designed to, and also to maybe transfer some of my old, I don't have too many, but I do have a few 3-inch reels recorded on half-track recorders, although some of them, as I said, were recorded on a non-capstan drive tape recorder. I may want to transfer those. Nothing fancy, maybe just take a microphone and hold it up to the speaker and just record it, you know, nothing, you know, special about it. I'm going to take you in the shop. John Svita made a comment, and yes, John, I do read your postings, and if I get time, I read them all the way through. But you had said, you know, I should put a microphone in there and try it out. Well, John, I answered you, but I want to show you. A picture is worth 1,000 words. Okay, here is the, I don't know what this is, but here is the microphone input. I'm on the ZE1, so I can't get any closer than 10 inches. And I'm not sure what this is. Probably a remote control foot switch or something. And the earphone. So I took a very thin screwdriver blade, one of my real small ones, and stuck it in there while it was in the record mode. And I heard static when I played it back. So right in here, there's two connections. Nothing happens when I stuck it in here, so that's probably the ground. This is probably the hot side. I don't have a plug that would go in there, and I can't get anything to work in there. Apparently when you plug it in, it makes some static in the speaker, even though it's in record. so it probably disconnects the speaker somehow. So it's a special plug, almost like a foreign, best way I can describe it is a foreign plug. So this didn't come with any microphone or anything else. I mean, this thing was sitting out on the table out there. I cleaned it up a little more, and for my reference, I marked 6 volt and 9 volt and marked the back of these plugs. I was wrong on this. Looking at the schematic, which I have to get the cell phone camera out and try to take a photo of this, but it does say down here amplifier 6 volts and the motor 9 volts. Now I had it reversed because this thing, well, the battery thing is soaking, obviously you saw that. When I got this thing, this cap that slides on the battery compartment of each one of these was faced up this way, which brought that connector over to this side. That's incorrect. It needs to be this way, with the half moons of the batteries facing up, which would bring this connector to the terminal connector on the battery holder over this point, and likewise for this one. So even though this is red, this is 6 volts for the amplifier. To further confirm that the amplifier runs on 6 volts and not 9, because I did have it powered on 9 and I had the motor powered on 6 with the power supplies, if you followed my last video. I was wrong, only because I went by this. In here it says 6 volts for the amplifier, 9 volts for the motor, which is right here. Looking at these electrolytics, these under microscope are 6 volt electrolytics. So I was temporarily powering this amplifier with 9 volts, but I didn't hurt it. It didn't hurt it at all. So after the correction, it works just fine. When I flip it into record, apparently when this is out there at the flea market, people have a habit of really jamming this thing and forcing it into the record. There's a little button here you got to push. So if you push this hard enough, it will bypass that and go into record without pushing this button. I found that out later on, because there's the little symbol right there that says record and a little arrow going to this button. So anyways, when I push this into record and I stick something in that slot, I get the static, not really a hum, but I get static. It does erase. There's an erase head here. It's not a permanent magnet, so it uses AC, generated, has an oscillator in it, and a playback and record head. So there is 2 heads in here. I had this off. These heads have been cleaned. They weren't too dirty. I took the pinch roller off, cleaned it, and oiled it. So basically everything on the top here is done. So it does record, but I don't have any way of hooking a microphone up to it because of the pin connections which I just showed you. So I played this tape all the way through. Right now this tape is turned over and there's nothing on it at this point. Before I turned it over, there was about 1/4 of an inch of tape left on, at that time, was a supply reel because it was over here. In other words, I just flipped the reels over. So there was voices on this. When I turned this over, no voices were heard, which means that this is not a full track recorder like that Sony one I bought last year, that 5-inch job I showed you. This is a half track monaural, which is what I want, because all my little recordings that I made years ago, I don't have a lot of them, but I do have some, were all made on half track little cheapy tape recorders, some of which were made on a capstan drive, others were made on a rim drive. So that's primarily what I got this for. For obvious reasons, you know, and I'm not about to go on eBay and look for stuff like that. See, things like this, I only paid $5. They're very small. I don't mind picking them up. When it comes to a large table radio that takes half this bench up, no, I don't have room for it. It has to be something really, really special before I'll collect it. And Don, I'm a junk collector. Yesterday at the George City Flea Market, that Bing Crosby, I think that's what you called it, Bing Crosby record player was there. It didn't sell at Mansfield, so it was sitting, the same vendor was at Jewett City yesterday. Just to let you know, it was still there, but it's huge. I have no room for it, and I don't sell on eBay. I don't deal with that. So anyways, now this will enable me, when this is working fully, to play and listen to some of my tapes that I've made back in the early 60s. My first tape recorder was 1962. 1962, and it was made on I repeat myself because I have a video on this that I made when I had my attic workshop. I have my dad's voice a couple months before he died on audio tape, half-track monaural, non-capstan drive tape recorder. So the speed is going to be off on this. So at the time I transferred as much as I could, the best quality I could, using a rim drive tape recorder, but it wasn't the same one I recorded it on, but it was similar. And I put a speed control on it so I can adjust it when my father's voice was about where I thought it should be. I played it and I had to keep on adjusting it because, as you know, a rim drive, as more tape accumulates on the take-up reel, the faster the tape goes across the head. It's a ratio. It's almost like a gear ratio or pulley ratio. So I had already put his voice on cassette, but I have the master tape, and that is buried in a box in the other shed. These are things that I took with me before I closed my shop in the attic. For nostalgic reasons, not so much to collect a piece like this, although this is a metal case, it's really nice, and it's not a piece of junk. It's not one of these plastic things, which I've seen yesterday out at Jewett City, a plastic one similar to what I had, you know, with the controls on the front. You turn it one way to fast forward it, the other way to rewind it, and the motor tilted this way and this way. It had a shaft on each end, and it would hit the platform rubber wheels underneath these platters that held the reels, and the speed was controlled, and they're, like I say, they're rim drive, they weren't capstan. So I've seen one of those yesterday at the Jewett City Flea Market, and I wasn't interested in it. I bought this because this is made much better, capstan drive, and I didn't have anything to play these things on other than that Sony that I showed you, which is put away under the bench right now, because that's full track. So this has possibilities. Whether I'll sell it in the future, one of my viewers said if you ever want to sell it. Well, that may be a possibility in the future, because I don't want to invest in microphones and stuff for this. I mean, I'm not a collector. I see something like this. Tell me the truth, collectors. You two did, Don, I'm a junk collector. Would you pass up on something like this? Come on, Don. Be truthful now. Would you pass this up if you saw this for $5 at a flea market? No, you would not. Thank you for watching, everybody. I'll give you more of an update on how the contacts work out. And I will be watching for comments, and maybe I got some other comments to tell me maybe I'm not doing something right with the vinegar solution. Maybe I need a different kind of vinegar. Who knows? But all I know is they cleaned up a little bit. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned, folks.